ॐ यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं हदेवम् आत्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. So last class we stopped at 390 and in that 390 I had some doubt on one particular word, Brahma. So I was referring to the line Taranga Pena Brahma Budbudadi. So Taranga is a wave, Pena is a foam, and Brahma is whirlpool. So I said it might be current because the word Brahma represents movement. Yeah, so current is okay, but whirlpool is also made of current. So they are kind of nearly the same. But Brahma gives you a better visualization. It's a whirlpool, and whirlpools are generally dangerous because if you get stuck in one, you will get sucked inside, and it's very fatal. So Brahma is a whirlpool, and Budbuddha is a bubble. Okay, so the rest of the shloka, whatever I said, doesn't change anything. The shloka basically communicated that even though we call all these different names, somebody says the ocean has bubble, somebody says ocean has waves and whirlpool and all of them ultimately is water. Sarvam swarupena jalam. It is essentially water. Yatha, in which case, in which manner, tatha, in the same manner, chideva dehadhyahamantametat. So it is only the Brahman, which is the Chaitanyam, which manifests itself as this Ahankara and all the koshas. So Deha refers to the Annamaya kosha. Adi means starting from Ahamanta. Aham is Ahankara. So it refers basically to the Panchakoshas. Sarvam Chideva. Everything is nothing but Chaitanyam Brahman alone. Eka Rasam Vishuddham. Eka Rasam means it is of uniform intensity. And Rasam basically means essence. So Eka Rasam means it's one essence only. Vishuddham means without mixing up with anything else. That's the meaning of Vishuddham. So that was in essence the 390 shloka. I just gave you a recap just to make sure that after the whirlpool reference, you get the complete shloka as a revision. Any questions? Can we move on to 391?
So it's basically it's similar to the gold example, right? The
Yeah,
gold and
exactly.
gold ornaments. Okay.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
it's gold ornament, or you could say clay and pot, or wood and furniture, all examples. So it's just the world is nothing but a name and form that we give to Brahman. And in the next couple of shlokas also, that idea will kind of keep repeating. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
Can we
Yeah,
move
we
on?
can move on. Yeah.
391. We'll go to 391. Sadevedam sarvam
Sadevedam
Sadevedam sarvam
jagad avagatam
jagadavagatam
jagadavagatam
vang manasayoho
vangmanasayoho
mansayoho
satonyat satonyat
satonyat
satonyat
nastyeva
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 prakriti parasimni
prakriti
prakriti
parasimni
parasiti
Timni
Simi.
Simni
Stitavatah.
Hitavatah.
Stitavata.
Prithak Kim Mritsnayaha
Prithak Kim
Prathakum
Mritsnayaha
Vritsnayaha.
Kalasha Ghata Kumbhadi
Kalasha Ghata Kumbhadi
Avagatam
Avagatam
Vadatyesha Bhrantah
Vadatyesha Bhrantah
Tvam Ahamiti
Tvam Aham iti
Mamahiti.
Maya Madiraya.
Maya Madiraya.
Yeah. Sadevedam Sarvam Jagad Avagatam Vangmanasayoho Satonyannastiyeva Prakriti Parasimni Sthitavatah Prithak Kim Mritsnayaha Kalasha Ghata Kumbhadyavagatam Vadatyesha Bhrantastvam Ahamiti Maya Madiraya. So that is 391. So the idea that we have seen so far is again presented. Sadeva idam sarvam jagat. Sat here means Sad Brahma. Sat in Sanskrit means existence. Existence actually with a capital E. And existence, as we generally talk about, is an adjective. Whereas in Vedanta, existence with the capital E is a noun. Okay, and this idea is very elaborately discussed in the Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, where the teaching begins with this mantra, Sadeva Somya Ida Agra Asiti Ekameva Dvitiyam. It's a very famous mantra from Chandogya Upanishad. In the 6th chapter, the student goes to the father and reports that he has just completed his education and returned from Gurukulam. And then the father asks him, what all did you learn? And then the son gives a long list of things. I learned this, that, and all that. And finally, the father asks this question, did you learn that one thing by learning which everything else is known? This is a question that comes in that chapter. All this before this real teaching starts. It's a prelude. And then the student says, no, I didn't learn any such thing. Maybe the teacher didn't know. That was the answer the student gives. The son gives to the father. Then the father starts teaching. So he completes the teaching, and with that, this mantra begins. Sadeva Somya Idam Agra Asit De Ekameva Dvitiyam. So Sat existence was what existed at the very beginning. Sadeva Somya Idam Agre Asit. Agre means in the very beginning. Ekam Eva Advitiyam. Ekam, it was only one without a second. Okay, so that's the Chandogya teaching. So this shloka is a kind of recollection or recall of that mantra. Sadeva idam sarvam jagate. This whole world is nothing but Sat in a different form. Avagatam vang manasayoho. Avagatam means understood. Understood, or you can even say perceived. Perceived, understood, these are the meanings you can give for the word avagatam. Vang manasayoho means, vak means words. And words here means description. And manas is your mind. Mind means the intellect. So generally when you learn about anything in this world, we learn through the words, and then the words are grasped by our mind, and then we understand. You conceptualize, you visualize, all those things. Okay, so your understanding is basically an interaction between your mind and the words you receive. Words may be spoken words or the words may be written words. Very often we read books and take the knowledge, but ultimately these are words, and the words may be spoken by a teacher in the classroom through a lecture and all that. So basically, word and the mind interact, and then through that the understanding emerges. So Vang Manasayoho Avagatam. Okay, now in this shloka, the Acharya wants to say that Brahman is also understood through words and mind only, but the words and the mind through which you understand the world are normal words and the normal mind. Whereas the words and the mind through which you understand Brahman are extraordinary words and extraordinary mind. Okay. Now, what do you mean by extraordinary word and extraordinary mind? So the word extraordinary word means Guru Shastra Upadesham. That is how you have to understand the expression extraordinary word. So the normal words with which you explain the world are not adequate to explain the concept or idea of Brahman. So that can only come from the Shastras. And the Guru who has learnt the Shastras uses a particular technique to transmit this knowledge. So that is why the Guru Shastra Upadesham is called extraordinary word. And what is this extraordinary mind that you need? That extraordinary mind that you need is what we call sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari mind. And sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is what we have learned in the earlier shlokas. I think we went through a detour also. We went back to the shloka number 17, 18 of Vivek Chudamani, where we learned what is Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and all that. So a mind which is conditioned and made mature by the acquisition of the qualities represented by the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. That mind, a mature and cultured mind, is required to understand the Guru Shastra Upadesham, and so the Sat Brahman is avagatam, understood by the sadhana chatushtaya sampanna mind hearing the Guru Shastra Upadesham. Okay, so this is the total meaning of the first line. So until now I have just explained to you what is the first line. Okay, I'll stop here. Any questions? We can do a short round.
No, yes, not Devanji. I'm able to follow.
You're
Only
able
thing
to
is
follow.
how to reach that state of mind. That's the
Yeah, I mean,
challenge.
that's a gradual process that will come.
Correct. Yeah.
That will come. It will have to be consciously practiced. That's all.
Yes.
Okay,
Agree.
fine. So can we go to the second line? Yeah. Satonyat nastyeva. Sataha anyat. Other than this Sat Brahman, anyat nastyeva. There is nothing other than this Sat Brahman. There is nothing other than this Sat Brahman. Okay, that is the essential teaching of Advaitam. What is Advaitam eventually? It says there is nothing called world. There is nothing called individual. It is all Brahman. What you call the world and what you call your body or mind is just a misconception. It is nothing but Brahman alone. And I think that idea has been given in the previous shloka also, where I explained that initially we divide Atma and Anatma and say, Anatma is different from Atma and we are really Atma and all that. But we then take a long journey and come back to that point and say, okay, really speaking, Anatma is not different from you, it is part of you. Okay, so we have completed that circle. That same point Acharya is making here. Satonyat nastyeva. Okay, and that Prakriti Parasimni Sthitavataha is an adjective for Sat. Sat, the Brahman, Prakriti Parasimni Sthitavan. So Prakriti is the Maya or the material world. Prakriti here is the subtlest form of material, subtlest form of matter. Parasimni means on the extreme boundary of matter. And when I say extreme boundary of the matter, don't imagine there is some forest area which is a boundary and all that. So what it means is, when you start analyzing what is this matter, I gave you the example of the scientists in CERN, where they are building bigger and bigger particle accelerator. In fact, yesterday I saw a news item which was a little funny, because suddenly they have now discovered that in that particle accelerator, there are some forces which interact with the particles, and they change the pathway of the particle away from the predicted path. The scientists, when they do all these experiments, they predict a certain path that the particles will take, and they perform the experiment to confirm that their predictions are true. Now they are realizing that their predictions are not always true. Sometimes the particles deviate from the predicted path, and now they are calling that force something called a ghost force, GHOST. Okay, and now they're going to go into research as to what is this ghost force all about. And I also read in the same report that this ghost force is supposed to be a four-dimensional force. I really don't know what it means by four-dimensional, but that's what the report said. Okay, so like all these scientists are now going deeper and deeper into the matter to find out what exactly this matter is. Vedanta says no matter how deep they go, they will still not be able to figure out this whole matter principle. And that is the limit that the Simni, the Prakriti Parasimni of the shloka is talking about that. And then Atma is something beyond that. So this has to be, this Prakriti Parasimni Sthitavataha has to be understood as that Chaitanyam, that consciousness, which goes beyond the knowledge of matter, which is Atma Vidya. When you are researching about matter, you are researching about some objective truth. But then there is another truth, which is the truth about the observer, which is the Atma Vidya. So the Atma Vidya is what Vedanta tries to bring into focus. So that relationship between the Atma Vidya and Anatma Vidya is figuratively expressed here by the Acharya as the Prakriti Parasimni. Sima means boundary or the limit. Parasimni means on the boundary. Okay, Sthitavataha. So from if you understand Satil Chaitanyam as something beyond the material plane, so there is nothing other than that Brahman. There is really speaking no matter. That is the second line meaning. Really speaking, there is nothing called matter. And my guru says, jocularly, matter doesn't matter. Okay, so that was second line. Are you able to connect the first and second line, or are they kind of two disparate statements?
No, it
I'm
makes
able to.
sense. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I think two
I
people
could
spoke
follow
at the same time.
Vasudevan.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so no need for more explanations. Right. So third line. Prithak kim mritsnayaha kalasha ghata kumbhadyavagata. Okay. So the third line is the example. So mritsnayaha prithak kim. Mritsna here means clay. Mritsna is clay. Kalasha, ghata, kumbha. They're all pots of different dimensions. You can imagine Kalasha to be a small pot, Kumbha to be a slightly bigger pot, and Ghata to be a much bigger pot. And we also saw this in the one of the earlier slokas. We had the same example, Kalasha, Kumbha and all that. We also had one more, another example, Ghata Kalasha Kusula Suchi Mukhehi, 385. So Kusula was the granary. A similar example, Acharya says, if you are talking about a Kalasha or a Ghata or a Kumbha, what exactly are they other than clay? They are nothing but different forms and names given to clay. Exactly like how the world and other things in the world are just names and forms given to Sat Brahma, which is the existence principle. So the third line is also very easy to understand. It's a repetition of the old example. There is no pot other than clay. Okay. Then the fourth line is Vadatyesha Bhrantaha Tvam Ahamiti Maya Madiraya. Vadatyesha Bhrantaha. Bhrantaha means you can either say a Bhrantaha is an intoxicated person, or a Bhrantaha is someone who is mentally not sound. You can say both. Even an intoxicated person is generally not mentally sound. Okay. So only the mentally unsound people talk about Tvam Aham Iti. Tvam is second person, you. Aham is here Ahankara, first person. And you have to imagine a third person, he, she, it, and all that. So only somebody with an unsound mind will talk about you, me, and all that, the differences. Maya Madiraya. Madira really means intoxication. Madira is the word, sometimes the word Madira is used to mean a bottle in which the wine is kept. Wine or alcohol is kept. And in some contexts, it is also translated as intoxication itself. Once you consume some alcohol, your mind becomes wobbly. That state of the mind is called Madira. So Maya is like an intoxicant, and those who have come under the intoxicating influence of Maya, they alone talk about the multiplicity, like you, me, I, and all that. He, she, it, the world, all that is a language that is used by the. I mean, you can say Bhrantaha here can also mean the ignorant person, not necessarily unsound mind or intoxicated, but someone who's overcome by ignorance, which is 99% of the people on this planet. Okay. So the not so well educated, not so well informed people talk about you, me, and all those multiplicities and multitudes, whereas in reality, it is all Brahman and Brahman alone. That was your 391. Okay, I thought it was a very long explanation. If the message is grasped, they are good. We can go to next. All good?
Yep.
Right. So we will go to 392. Kriya Samabhiharena
Kriya samabhihareణ
Yeah.
Yatra Nanyaditi Shrutihi
yatra nanyaditi shrutihi
Braviti Dvaitarahityam
braviti dvaitarahityam
Mithyadhyasa Nivrittaye.
mithyadhyasa nivrittaye
Kriya Samabhiharena Yatra Nanyaditi Shrutihi Braviti Dvaitarahityam Mithyadhyasa Nivrittaye. So the previous shloka was a reference to Chandogya 6th chapter. This shloka is a reference to the Chandogya Upanishad 7th chapter. So in the 7th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, Rishi Narada goes to Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is one of the 4 rishis whom we refer to as Sanakadi rishis. Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Sujata, and Sanat Kumara. I think those are the 4 names. Yeah, they are called Sanakadi rishis, and they are basically the very first creation of Brahmaji when he started the creation of this cycle, this universe, this cycle of creation, he created Sanakadi rishis. And he expected them to get married and go into Grihastha, but the moment they were created, they said, we are going to take sannyasa, and they became sannyasis. So apparently, the Sanakadi rishis, even though they are rishis, they look like small children. They're supposed to look like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. And they are supposed to be going around without any clothes, like how a small child will go. And if you remember the story of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, you know, who is Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha? They're basically the gods of Vaikunta, Jaya, Vijaya, who got cursed by the Sanakadi rishis. If you remember that story. Yeah, so Sanakadi rishis once wanted to visit Vishnu in Vaikunta, and they came to Vaikunta, but they were stopped at the gate by the Jaya Vijaya gods. Okay. And then the rishis cursed them. That's the story of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, then Ravana Kumbhakarna, and Shishupala Dantavaktra. That's how they came to the earth in 3 different janmas. That's a different story. But this Sanat Kumara is one of those Sanakadi rishis. And in this 7th chapter of Chandogya, Rishi Narada, who himself is very greatly learned, he goes to Sanat Kumara and says that, I have learned so many things in this world, but I am still not peaceful in my mind. Soham Bhagavate Shochami. That's one of the words that you find in the 7th chapter. Soham Bhagavate Shochami means I am so learned. In that section of the Upanishad, Narada actually gives a long list of his qualifications. It's like, somebody in today's world who has earned some 7 PhDs. You probably might come across somebody who has done 7 PhDs or 6 PhDs, or got some 20 bachelor's degree or something. It's something like that. He said, I have learned this, that, I have learned Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, I have learned complete dance and music, and I have learned grammar, and this and that. And he says, I can predict what is under the soil. I can travel all over the world without any passport, visa. He gives all his qualifications, and he says, even though I have so many qualifications, I do not have peace of mind. Soham Bhagavate Shochami. That's how Narada starts the chapter. And then, when the teaching starts from Sanat Kumara defines Brahman in a particular way, in a particular mantra. He says, he uses the word Bhuma to refer to Brahman in that 7th chapter. Bhuma. So that whole 7th chapter is called Bhuma Vidya. And the mantra runs like this. Yatra nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati sa bhuma. That is the mantra. Yatra nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati sa bhuma. So the word bhuma is a reference to Brahman. Brahman, which is the Sat of the 6th chapter, and the Chaitanyam that we talk about. Okay. So in this shloka, you see Yatra Nanyat, the word comes. That Yatra Nanyat is a paraphrasing of that mantra from Sanat Kumara, which runs like Yatra Nanyat Pashyati, Nanyat Srunoti, Nanyat Vijanati. That mantra is paraphrased by the word Yatra Nanyat. Okay. And so what is this Kriya Samabhiharena? The word Kriya means verb. And in this mantra, Yatra Nanyat Pashyati, the word Pashyati is a verb. Pashyati means to see. Nanyat Srunoti. Srunoti is a verb. And Shrunoti is to hear. Nanyat Vijanati. Vijanati is again a verb. Vijanati means to understand or to Vijanati is to know. Really means to know. And here we understand the word know as understanding. Okay, so you have 3 verbs in that mantra. Yatra Nanyat Pashyati, Nanyat Srunoti, Nanyat Vijanati. And what is the meaning of that mantra? So, Brahman is that entity, or that, what's a better word? Entity is a good word, no? Or you can say state. but then state is likely to confuse, because you always associate state as something connected with time. Any state will change. So a state is subject to change, but Brahman is not subject to change. So the word state is not an appropriate word. So he simply says Brahman is that in which you don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you don't know anything. That is a mantra. Yatra nanyat pashyati, nanyat shrunoti, nanyat vijanati means in Bhuma, in Brahman, one does not see anything, one does not hear anything, one does not know anything. Okay, that is the definition of Bhuma in the 7th chapter. And what it really means is, when you see something, you objectify. You objectify what you are seeing. When you hear something, you are objectifying the sound. When you know something, you are objectifying the object of knowledge. But really speaking, at the level of Brahman, there is no second object. So there is nothing to know, there is nothing to see, there is nothing to hear. That is the meaning of this mantra. It is a very good definition of how Brahman is one without a second. Because you can only see something if there is a second object. You can only hear something when there is a second object to make some noise. But when there is only one thing, there is without a second, there is nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing to know. So the use of 3 different verbs to give this message is here called Kriya Samaviharam. So the Kriya Samaviharam is a reference to the use of 3 different verbs in the Chandogya mantra to define Brahman as Bhuma. Nanyat iti Shrutihi. The word Shrutihi refers to the Chandogya Upanishad, 7th chapter mantra. Okay. Was that clear? Was that confusing? Was that too much?
It was
Are you able
clear,
to follow?
Vasudevanji.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when I give a long explanation like this, there is a good risk, good chance that you may get lost. So I just want to make sure that you followed the complete thread and didn't get lost anywhere. That's all.
No, I could follow.
So,
Great.
so I think there's a question from Rajanish.
Yeah.
Hello, I am relatively new here, but I heard some of the sessions that are recorded. Thanks for those sessions.
Yeah.
Just a question: isn't this sloka slightly in contrast with the earlier where it says Maya Madira? Because my thought here is, maybe I'm wrong, but any language uh, or anything that is said will imply there is you and me or others, right? So anything that is said will apply to this earlier language where Maya
Okay.
Madira
Okay.
uh, sloka, right? Or is this two? There is a slight contrast I see in these two
Yeah.
slokas, or
Please,
not?
can you explain? Can you explain that contradiction that you're seeing?
So
A little more elaborately.
anything that is said, from my point of view, any language or anything that is said
Mhm.
is implying that there is somebody else, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah.
So there we
So
are implying me and you, whoever is
correct.
saying anything.
Correct. 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 See. Okay. Now you did say that you are relatively new here and you have heard some of the earlier lectures, but what I don't know is which specific lectures that you have been hearing. Okay. Now, to give you a broader context, this whole session that we have been doing, I think today's session is the 53rd session, if I'm right. Okay. So there are 52 lectures before this, and all these 52 lectures are nothing but expansion and explanation of Advaita Vedanta. Okay. So in Advaita Vedanta, the word Advaitam itself means one without a second. That's what it means. Okay. But in the practical world in which we live, there are so many things. There are infinite things. So the first question itself comes, how do you say there is only one thing? There are so many things. You follow that path first? Sir?
Kind of.
Yeah. So in the world, you can never say there's only one thing. There are umpteen things. There are infinite number of things. So one has to correctly understand what we mean when we say there is only one thing. So we start the teaching in this manner. We first say that there are three levels of reality. We define there are three levels of reality. The normal reality that we all talk about is called the transactional reality. In Sanskrit, we call it Vyavaharika Satyam. No, Vyavaharika means that which is given to Vyavahara. Vyavahara means transaction. Okay. So whatever we do in this world, in this normal life, all of that comes to Vyavaharika Satyam. And what we say is that Vyavaharika Satyam is subject to space and time. It is subject to space and time. That means, we are having this session now between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock Germany time. Before 11 o'clock, this session was not there. After 12 o'clock, this session will not be there. So when we say whether this session is a truth or real or unreal, it has reality only between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock. And it has reality only in this particular Google Meet channel. If you go to any other channel, you can't hear this session. So that is one example of saying that this session that we are currently participating in is bound by space and time. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. And in
Wait,
one,
wait,
yeah, sorry, okay.
wait. So that is clear. So what I want to say is transactional reality or Vyavaharika Satyam is bound by space and time. And then we say there is a higher plane of reality which is called Paramarthika Satyam. Paramarthika Satyam is that which is not bound by space and time. It is unconditional reality. And that unconditional reality, what it means is, it exists everywhere and in all the three times, past, present, and future, that reality exists. And that Paramarthika Satyam is one without a second. That is the second lesson. That is the second lesson. The Paramarthika Satyam is one without a second. And then we come and say that in comparison to the Paramarthika Satyam, the Vyavaharika Satyam does not have a reality. It is then Mithya. Okay, that word Mithya has to be understood in that context. In relation to the Paramarthika Satyam, which is not affected by space and time, this transactional plane of reality is Mithya, does not really have a reality of its own. So that Vyavaharika plane belongs to Maya. The Paramarthika plane belongs to Brahman. But Brahman does not depend on Maya for existence, but Maya depends on Brahman for existence. So these are all the fundamentals of Advaitam that one has to understand and internalize. And when you have done that, in the light of that knowledge, you will know what this Maya Madiraya of the previous shloka actually means. Okay. Now, in the interest of all the others who are, who have been with me for so many sessions now, I would request you to be a little more patient. Go back to all the previous lectures and listen to them maybe once, twice, thrice, and then if you are still not satisfied, we can have a Q&A. And anyway, next week, we plan to have a Q&A. If you join next week, you will probably have a better idea of how this whole thing pans out. Okay? So,
All right.
our
Thank you. So, to be specific, I think sorry, I thank you for the explanation, and I sorry, maybe I put it in wrong words. So, words I wanted to ask was like, what is difference between Mithya and Maya Madira?
Mithya is Maya Madira. They are the same.
Oh, same. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to understand the
Mithya,
difference.
Mithya is an objectival thing. Maya Madira is more like, how do you say that? It's a figurative speech. Actually, there is no intoxication. Maya Madira, there is really speaking no intoxication. It is just to say that they are all ignorant people. That's all. It's a figurative speech, figurative expression. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So Rahul Narayan wanted to ask a question. He had his hands raised. Sir, can you unmute? Rahul
Yes,
ji?
yes, yes. So the third plane. What was the third plane? You didn't mention that. You mentioned that first
Third,
two, but
third plane is Pratibhasika Satyam, which is the subjective truth. We give examples like dream and magic show and rope snake, illusions. What is that? Mirage water. These are all the examples for Pratibhasika. Pratibhasa really means a false reflection.
okay, okay,
Pratibhasa. The word Pratibhasika comes from the word Pratibhasa, which is a false reflection.
yeah,
Okay, so
okay,
Vyavaharika,
yeah.
Paramarthika, and Pratibhasika.
Got it. Thank you so much. But just please bear with me with the you already gave this answer that that we should have. We would learn with experience as well. I think Guruji was asking when you were answering to Guruji's question, Guru Dutt ji, that the difference between what should I say? Difference between Satya and Asatya. That I'm paraphrasing it wrongly. So, but I'm just going back to the previous question. So, you and me, that like the previous gentleman asked this question. How that whenever there is a language used and there's that you, me, others is being used. And then there are people who would come in and then, for example, that fox and the bird story where the fox says that the my god and your god is the same. I forgot that sloka as well. And also the globalists say that the nation, the boundaries, all these things are mithya or is wrong, and we have to be a global economy and a global culture. I'm mixing all these pots, but does the answer again is that we have to divide that into three different planes or two different planes to understand if it is mithya or not? What the other person is trying to do is falsify knowledge. Am I correct, or am I mixing it up too much for me to
No,
explain myself?
I'm not sure if you made a statement or you made a question. So
I made a
I don't know where
question
to start.
after making a lot of statements. So my
Okay, so let me
my
let
question,
me answer. Let me
yeah,
answer to the extent I understood what you said. Okay,
yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
so these globalists, whatever they say, we
Yes.
have a statement in Vedanta that there is really speaking no such thing called pure lie.
Okay.
Okay, there
Hmm.
cannot be a pure lie. A lie is always based on some fact.
Okay.
Okay? So
Okay.
without a small amount of fact, you cannot give a lie. Okay.
Okay.
So in every statement that appears to be a deceptive statement,
Uh-huh.
what you would find is that there is a lot of untruth superimposed on a small amount of truth.
Okay.
So the smartness is to figure out which part of the statement is true and which
Hmm.
part of the statement is falsehood. Okay. So when the globalists say that there should not be any boundaries and this and that,
Yeah.
at a philosophical level they may be right, but we don't live in a world of philosophy. We live in a practical world, and my tummy's hunger can go only if I eat food. And
Correct.
somebody else's thirst can be quenched only if they drink water. I cannot drink water for somebody else. And
Yes. Yes.
nobody else can eat food for my hunger. Okay.
Yeah.
So, uh, at the Vyavaharika level, we need to have peace. And any philosophy, any dogma, any ideology that claims to promote peace but really ends up creating warlike situations at the Vyavaharika level
Yeah.
is a false philosophy, is a false ideology. Okay, so I would say the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah.
If there were no boundaries and if you allowed everybody to go everywhere, will that really create peace or will that create chaos? That's the question. Okay. The
Ji.
same globalists, when they go to sleep at night,
Yeah.
they lock their houses and go behind a safely locked door. They don't keep their doors open for anybody to enter their house. You go and ask them, how do they sleep in the night? I'm sure they'll have several bolts to their doors before they go to bed.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And those are the same globalists who want the nation's boundaries to be opened.
Yeah.
So that is nothing but it is hypocrisy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's not confuse hypocrisy with philosophy.
Yeah.
Even in Sanatana Dharma, even though we say that at the ultimate level, everybody is Brahman.
Yeah.
We still recognize that at the body mind level, there are differences.
Yeah. Correct.
At the body mind level, we are not equal. Let's accept that. Even within the body, there are millions and millions of cells, and each cell has its own function. The cell in the heart is not the same as the cell in the brain or the cell in the liver or the cell in the pancreas
Correct.
or the
Correct.
cell in the kidney. Every cell is different. So diversity is built into our nature. You don't have to look anywhere else. Just look inside your body. And you have 10 fingers. Not all 10 fingers can do the same thing.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
right hand can do so many things which your left hand cannot do. Okay. So this equality is a great thing, provided we know where exactly to apply that equality and where not to apply.
Yeah.
My guru jokingly says, this Advaitam and all that is great during the class, but once you leave the class and go and put your chappal on, please make sure that you wear your chappal and not somebody else's chappal.
That's a good point. Yeah.
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 So we are very practical. At that level, we are very practical. You have to go to your house. You can't walk into somebody else's house and say, give me lunch or dinner because it is Advaitam. No, you will get slapped. Okay.
Yeah.
So while we talk about philosophy, that philosophy has to be understood correctly and appropriately. You can't blindly apply that philosophy everywhere.
Yeah. No, correct, correct. Thank you so much. You answered my question actually very well. That was exactly my question after so many statements, and I got my answer.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Right. So I was only on the first line of 392. I have not yet completed the 392. I think we can go to the rest of the lines. Can we? Or are there any comments? Anybody? No?
We can go and continue, sir.
Okay. So, Braviti Dvaita Rahityam Mithyadhyasa Nivrittaye. That's the second line. So, Dvaita Rahityam. Rahityam means absence. Dvaita Rahityam means absence of duality. And duality here means plurality. More than two. Two or more than two is Dvaitam Bahutvam. Nanatvam. In one of the Upanishads, we say Neha Nanasti Kinchana. That comes in Kattopanishad. Neha Nanasti Kinchana. There is actually no plurality. And that Dvaita Rahityam is absence of plurality. Mithya Adhyasa Nivrittaye. Adhyasa again is a superimposition. As I said, name and form are the superimposition. So the body is a superimposition, mind is a superimposition. All the objects that you see around are all name and form superimposed on Brahman, the existence. And all this is mithya. Mithya means it is bound by space and time. So the Shruti takes a lot of pain to tell us that in reality there is no second entity at all. There is only Brahman and Brahman alone. That is the second line. Braviti Dvaita Rahityam Mithyadhyasa Nivrittaye. Nivritti means to remove. So to remove the notion of plurality, which is a superimposition, the Shruti uses the Kriya Samaviharam. Yatra Nanyat Pashyati, Nanyat Srunoti, Nanyat Vijanati. That Shruti statement has to be remembered. That is 392. Okay. Then can we do one more shloka? 393. Yeah. Okay. Akashavat
Akashavat
Ashwati,
Nirmala Nirvikalpam
Nirmala
Nirmala
Nirvikalpam
Nirvikalpam,
Nisseema Nispandana
Nissima
Nisseema
Nispandana
Nispandana,
Nirvikaram
Nirvikaram
Nirvikaram,
Antarbahih Shunyam
Antarbahih Shunyam
Antarbahishoonyam,
Ananyamadvayam
Ananyamadvayam
Ananyamadvayam,
Param Swayam
Swa-
Param Brahma
Swayam
Swayam
Param
Param
Brahma
Brahma,
Kimasti Bodhyam.
Kimasti
Kimasti
Bodhya,
Bodhyam
Akashavan Nirmala Nirvikalpam Nisseema Nispandana Nirvikaram Antarbahishoonyam Ananyamadvayam Swayam Param Brahma Kimasti Bodhyam. That was 393. So here the Acharya wants to give a comparison between Atma or Brahman and Akasha. Akasha is here space, the open space. And here he lists certain qualities of Akasha and says that these very qualities that Akasha has are applicable for Brahman also. So that is the essence of this shloka. We will go through the qualities that he mentions one by one. Okay, let me open that note. Akasha. No. Here. So Akashavate. Akashavate means just like the space. Nirmala. Nirmala means blemishless. Nirmala means without any impurity. And it also means it is not connected with anything. Asanga. Nirmala implies asangatvam. Nirmalatvam means it is pure without any impurity, which also means it is not connected with anything. Okay. Then Nirvikalpam. Nirvikalpam means it cannot be divided. It is indivisible, akhandam. It cannot be broken. You cannot, take a knife and cut some piece of space and then take it to somebody else's house. Let's say somebody lives in a very small apartment and they are short of space. So you go out into the open field and then you say, I'm going to cut a piece of space and take it home. You can't do it. So space cannot be cut. Space cannot be divided. So in that sense, it is nirvikalpam and akhandam. And nisseemam. Nisseema means limitless. Seema is limit, boundary. And akasha is limitless. There's no end. You cannot say where akasha comes to an end. You just keep traveling in space. You will keep traveling, traveling, traveling and you will never end. That is Nissimam. Then Nispandanam. Spandanam means to vibrate. Spandanam is vibration, and Akasha, in that sense, it is really not true, because the scientists now talk about space having a curvature and space bending and all that. But from a palpable, perceptible experience, space doesn't bend. So in that sense, it's a kind of a approximation, but it applies 100% to Atma. Brahman also is Nirmalam. Brahman also is Asangam. It is not polluted by anything. Brahman also has no division. It is one single entity without any division. And Brahman also has no limits. We already said that, Paramarthika Satyam is beyond space and time. It's in fact, space and time exist in Brahman. So Nissima means Brahman is limitless. And that's why it is Anantam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And Nispandanam. So Brahman has no movement. Spandanam is vibration, which is a kind of movement. And Brahman has no movement. So it is Nirvikaram. Because it cannot move, it is Nirvikaram. Whereas you cannot really say that space is Nirvikaram, because in a very subtle, imperceptible level, space also goes through a curvature, which is proved by Einstein's theory of relativity and all that. That's why, when any solar eclipse happens, the scientists are interested in seeing especially when a total solar eclipse happens, the scientists want to see the distribution of the stars. Okay, that's a separate subject in itself. So that the presence of sun results in a curvature of the space around the sun. So the distribution of the stars actually is distorted. 6 months later, when the Earth goes to the other side of the sun, they take the same picture of the same stars and then they compare. So this is an exercise in astronomy, but we are not here doing astronomy class, so I'll not go deep into that. Okay, so Nirvikaram. Then Antarbahishshunyam. Antarbahishshunyam means you cannot really talk about inside and outside when it comes to space as well as Brahman. When the very idea of inside applies only if there is an outside. And the word outside will apply only if there is an inside that is possible. But when everything is in space, there is no inside or outside for space. So in that sense, even Atma, when everything is inside Atma, when everything exists in Atma, you cannot really talk about inside Atma or outside Atma, because Atma is only one and it is containing everything. So Antarbahishshunyam. Then Ananyam. Ananyam Advayam. Ananyam means without any second. Advayam also means one without a second, without any other thing existing. Okay. Now, when it comes to Atma, we can say at the Paramarthika level, there is no second entity, there is only one Atma. But how do you say that for Akasha? Because there are other things than Akasha also. Okay, for this, we can give a Vedantic explanation, because in the Taittiriya Upanishad, when the Srishti is talked about, we talk about the Akasha becoming the first thing that is created. Akasha is the first among the creation. Etasmad Atmana Sambhutah. Etasmad Akasha Sambhutah. Tasmad va etasmad Atmana Akasha Sambhutah. So the first thing that comes out of the creation is Akasha. Then Akashad Vayuhu. So wind comes out of Akasha. And Vayu Agnihi. Fire comes from Vayu, and so on and so on. And that means Akasha is the cause of Vayu, and Vayu is the cause of Agni. And we know that when we talk about a material cause and the product made out of the material, there's really no product other than the cause. Example being, there is really no pot other than clay. There is really no ornament other than gold. So in that same logic, if Vayu came out of Akasha, then there is really no Vayu other than Akasha. So you can then apply that to everything in creation, because everything finally originates from Akasha. So you can say the whole world that you see, the whole universe that you see, is nothing but a manifestation of Akasha in various forms and configurations. Then you can say there is Advayam for Akasha also. Okay, so this is basically a comparison between Akasha and Atma, and there are some more comparisons which are not part of this shloka, but which come from the Shankara Bhashyam of Bhagavad Gita. There, Shankara says both Akasha and Atma are Sarvadharaha. They support everything. Okay, that is one point. And Asanga, of course, I mentioned. Nispandana, Nirvikaram, and they are both Ekaha. There is only one Atma and there is only one Akasha. They are both Ekaha and they are Akhandaha. They are not separable. They are not divisible. They are indivisible. So these are all some of the common features of between Akasha and Atma. And there must be at least one uncommon feature, because whenever you give an example between two things, there may be a lot of common features, but there must be one uncommon feature. Otherwise, if I am comparing A and B, if there is no uncommon feature, then A is equal to B. So what is the uncommon feature? The uncommon feature is Brahman is sentient. Brahman is aware, whereas Akasha is Jadam. Akasha is insentient. And Akasham is subject to creation and destruction, whereas Atma is not subject to creation and destruction. Those are the two important uncommon features between Akasha and Atma. So that is the first three lines of the shloka. So Swayam Param Brahma Kimasti Bodhyam. So that is basically a declaration. So our real nature is nothing but Brahman, and I don't have anything else to teach you beyond this. Kimasti Bodhyam. Bodhyam means that which has to be taught. And there is nothing more to be taught other than this fact. With that, the Acharya concludes the 393 shloka. Okay, and we have also gone beyond our designated time, so it's probably a good time to close this class. If a couple of discussions, questions are needed, we can have. Otherwise, we are good to close. Any questions? Anyone? Okay. Right. No questions. We will close with the chanting of the closing prayers. Yeah. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukhabhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Can we spend a minute after the recording is closed?